Today we're going to build this simple but elegant bookcase together. We're going to use some fun building techniques with basic power tools and hand tools. And I'll even show you a few tricks of the trade. So today's workshop is right here in the garage. Now you can build this bookcase anywhere you'd like. I've built woodworking projects in a backyard, in a driveway, even in the room where it now resides. So don't sweat it if you don't have an industrial workshop. Just go ahead and set yourself up a safe and organized work area and you're ready to go. Okay, we're going to make this bookcase frame out of birch plywood. We're going to save some money because birch plywood is actually cheaper than solid birch or solid pine. Let's take a look at our bookcase sides. What we have are two pieces cut 12 inches wide by 6 foot high. Let's go ahead and make some marks for our shelves. Now we're going to have some permanent shelves and some adjustable shelves. Let's start with our permanent shelf markings. If you look over here, we already made a mark at 3 inches. That's to the top of the first shelf. The second shelf we made a mark at 31 inches. And the third shelf is going to be at the top. Then we went ahead and made a mark 3/4 of an inch down from each shelf. And what that will do is give us a nice little mark to go by when we're assembling it. Next, we're going to make our marks for our adjustable shelves. Let's go ahead and make a mark at 14 inches, 41 inches, and 55 inches. These marks will coincide with the bottom of this adjustable shelf hole jig. Now, we're making a lot of marks on this bookcase side, so it's a good idea to go ahead and label them as you go so there's less room for error. Okay, now speaking of marks, let me show you a little trick over here. What we're going to do is take this piece that we already drew all of our wonderful lines on, put it next to our piece that's bare with no lines, grab our pencil, and we'll transfer our marks for our shelves. So then we can come back with our trusty old framing square, put it on there, and transfer away. Okay, now it's time for our adjustable shelf holes. What we have here is an adjustable shelf hole jig with 4 holes about 1.25 inches apart, 2 inches in from the end. Now we made our marks earlier to coincide with this jig. We're going to go ahead and clamp it down to the edge of the piece and to our mark. Then we're going to go ahead and grab a drill bit, which is just a little oversized than the size of the shank for your shelf support. Gives it a little more easy in and out. So what we did also is put a piece of tape at 1 1/8 inches from the bottom of the drill bit because we have 3/4 of an inch with our jig and we want this to protrude about 3/8 of an inch into the side. So go ahead and put your tape on there, line it up and drill away. It's now time for our rabbet cut. What we're going to do is notch out the back of the top, bottom, and 2 sides. This will allow for our Luan backing to fit in nice and snug and you won't see the end of the plywood. As you can see, we have our rabbet jig here. Now what we're going to do is notch out the back for our Luan. So that cut's going to be 1/4 of an inch by 3/8 of an inch. So what we did is we brought the height of our blade up to 1/4 of an inch and we set our fence so it's going to cut out 3/8 of an inch. Okay, let's go ahead, make it safe, and cut some wood. Here's what we did. We cut all 4 pieces, the 2 sides and the top and the bottom, with that one cut. Now we changed our saw blade so it's 3/8 of an inch high and 1/4 of an inch away from the fence. And that's going to finish our rabbet cut for today. All right, let's go ahead and cut it up. We're almost done with our bookcase side prep work. What we're going to do next is look at our permanent shelf marks. Remember we made a mark at the top and at the bottom? Well, let's go ahead and put a center line on that shelf, transfer it to the side, and then transfer that line to the back. And then go ahead and make a mark at 2 inches, 6 inches, and 10 inches. Then what we do is we come back with our handy dandy little drill motor with our handy dandy little drill bit. This is a pilot hole for a number 8 wood screw and it has the countersink already on it. So it's like killing 2 birds with 1 drill bit. Okay, let's go ahead and drill away. Yeah, let's put this bad boy together. Now with a good bead of glue, some clamps, and some screws, we'll put this bookcase together with you. We are now ready for our center permanent shelf. Our center permanent shelf was cut 1/4 inch less to allow for the Luan backing. So to make installation easier, we'll grab a couple pieces of scrap, put it underneath, line up our pieces, and screw them together. Now we flip the frame over and we went ahead and cut our Luan backing to its proper size. Now before we put any glue or nails in this backing, we'd like to make sure that it fits real nice. So we gave it a dry run. And here it is. And I think it fits rather nicely myself. Okay, let's take it out and get to work. Now this piece is glued in place. We just have to go ahead and nail it down. So what we're going to do is nail down the one side first and then the top. Now the next nailing is pretty critical along the other side. We want to make sure that our actual frame is square, and this will help us square it up. So what we do is we measure corner to corner on both sides. Corner to corner here, corner to corner there. And if that measurement is exactly the same, then you, my friend, have a square frame. For our fascia, we have this 3/4 inch pine cut to 1.5 inches wide. This is going to go ahead and hide the front edge of this birch plywood and give it a little more of a traditional look. We're going to go ahead and put our pieces together with a square cut, or better known as a butt joint. So the first thing we're going to do is measure for our height, which we know is 6 foot. We're going to cut the piece and then put it in the centers. Now a little trick is always cut your bigger pieces first if you can, and then go back with the smaller pieces, just in case you make a mistake. And remember, measure twice and cut once. The first thing you want to do is clean up your edges of your material. So we're going to go ahead and just give it a nice little cut to square it up. Now, one by one, we're going to go ahead and cut our length. Now first, let's go ahead and glue and nail our sides. Now notice I glue everything I can, because in reality, the nails are not for anything except to hold the pieces in place until the glue dries. So go ahead and put your glue on there, lay your piece on the correct way you like, start from one end and work your way down with some nails. Let's get started. Before we move on, just a little reminder to always have a wet rag and clean up all that excess glue while you can. It's a lot easier to clean up while it's wet than when it's dry. Here's what we're going to do next. We're going to go ahead and grab our tape measure and measure for our center pieces. We're going to measure each one individually just in case there's a little bit of a variance. It's now time to use our router. Now just a reminder, when you're routering on the inside of something, you want to go clockwise, okay? And on the outside of anything, you want to go counterclockwise. Now, today we're using a 1/4 round router bit to soften up our edges. Now before starting, always double check your router setting on a piece of scrap. Make sure you spend time on accuracy, because if you don't, it could be a lot of extra work if it doesn't come out just right. Alright, now since we have our router already set up, let's go ahead and router for our adjustable shelves and our base molding. Here's another trick of the trade. We turned our pieces upside down that we're about to router, okay? Go ahead and grab 2 pieces of scrap, put them on the underside, screw them down with a screw that's not too long, we'll flip it over, and voila, safe and easy work area. And there you have it, a safe work area. So let's go ahead and put on our safety glasses. And again, it's time for some routering. Routers away. Let's finish our shelving with our adjustable shelves. We have these cut an 1/8 inch less from front to back and a 1/16 less on either side of the inside opening and our outside fascia opening for our fascia. So what we did with those pieces that we already cut, went ahead and put a center mark on the pieces. So when we glue a nail, we have a nice little reference guide to go by. It's time for our base molding. We have some 3/4 inch pine cut to 2 1/4 inch. That's going to go on the bottom of the cabinet. And with our miter, which is going to be a 45-degree cut on either side, will give us a real nice finish when we're done. We have our pieces cut. Now we're going to put these on, but before we glue and nail them, let's make sure it fits real nice. Again, I like to give things a dry run just to make sure, and it does. Okay, we're going to glue and nail. We're now going to crown our newborn bookcase with some crown molding. Now this is a bit of a tricky cut. First, measure for the front piece. This time make your mark on the bottom of the molding and then go ahead and turn the molding upside down. Go by your mark, which is now at the top of the molding. Check your reference line for the right angle, and if it looks good, then cut your piece. Double check your cut, and if you're on the right track, then do the same procedure with the sides. Okay, that's our little trick. Just make sure that the piece is upside down on the saw. It's a lot easier. So now we're going to go ahead and give it a dry run as usual. And of course it fits, which is very nice. Now we just go ahead and glue the one surface and nail it down. It was a lot of fun building with you today. On our next show, we'll pull out the caulk, spackle, and paint and give this bookcase the finish it deserves. My name is Eddie. We're going to build this simple but elegant bookcase together. We're going to use some fun building techniques with basic power tools and hand tools. And I'll even show you a few tricks of the trade. So today's workshop is right here in the garage. Now you can build this bookcase anywhere you'd like. I've built woodworking projects in a backyard, in a driveway, even in the room where it now resides. So don't sweat it if you don't have an industrial workshop. Just go ahead and set yourself up a safe and organized work area and you're ready to go. Okay, we're going to make this bookcase frame out of birch plywood. We're going to save some money because birch plywood is actually cheaper than solid birch or solid pine. Let's take a look at our bookcase sides. What we have are two pieces cut 12 inches wide by 6 foot high. Let's go ahead and make some marks for our shelves. Now we're going to have some permanent shelves and some adjustable shelves. Let's start with our permanent shelf markings. If you look over here, we already made a mark at 3 inches. That's to the top of the first shelf. The second shelf we made a mark at 31 inches. And the third shelf is going to be at the top. Then we went ahead